Hey Tuskegee, this is another episode of Black Consciousness Today, and today we have in studio Mr. James Coleman as our guest, and as always, Mr. Arthur Powell, who is our host for the day, and we have Butch Baxter, Homie and Baxter, who is our assistant producer today, who will be chiming in when necessary. And we were talking off camera before the show started about some serious things because we are facing some serious issues. And we're talking about the recent election and some of the things that went on with Hillary's campaign, with Trump's campaign, and things like that. So what we were talking about, Mr. Powell, we're going to give you the first word on this so we can start this thing off.
All right. Thank you, brother producer. Most of all, let's thank God for this opportunity today, for being here, but without him it wouldn't be possible. But before the cameras began rolling, we were talking about the election. How Hillary didn't win what caused her to lose. It's kind of controversial. A lot of people forget that over the years, Hillary had done some great things. That does not make her perfect. But she had done things that benefit especially women and children in the health area. So she's done those things. But coming around this election was strange, very strange. I had hoped that she would win because I really didn't want to see Donald win. But I always saw the little small window of opportunity where he was going to win. Strange enough, when Hillary and Obama ran, Hillary was my choice. But I told everybody earlier, Hillary is my choice, but Obama will be our next president. So it ended up. There are a lot of things that goes on behind the scenes in politics that we don't take in consideration. Now, last week I mentioned to someone about the white conservatives, the white supremacists, and those whites who want to have their own state. And we kind of got into it a little bit, but we didn't look deep beneath the substance. So there's many reasons, not a single reason why Hillary lost. One was, a lot of us didn't like Hillary. One of the reasons being because of abortion. That's a big issue. But
That is major.
Mr. President, our President Obama, supported family planning. So what's the difference?
You're talking about Planned Parenthood.
Planned Parenthood.
Yeah. Well, Hillary is a big Planned Parenthood supporter as well.
Right, I understand. But what my point is, our president, President Obama, is a supporter of Planned Parenthood.
And how do you feel? What is your opinion about Planned Parenthood?
Hillary is a supporter of Planned Parenthood. Many of them. Now, Planned Parenthood is a mix. Some people don't like it because of the abortion. But that's not the only thing that they do. They have other benefits that benefit women. Now, the fact that they are located in a lot of our communities, no one holds a gun to our head and says go have an abortion. This is different from the time when the government had a program where they were forcing women to in sterilization and abortion. So this is different. This is voluntary. So we have a choice. We must put it out, man. Do I want an abortion? Or do I want to save my child? That's the choice that we make. Okay? Big money, big money comes from the bank, go to both sides of the aisle, Democrats and Republicans. But they're gonna have a hand in that either. They don't care who wins. They're gonna have that influence. Now, I'm looking at the paper this morning, it says, the rise of the white man is puzzling to many. So I asked one of our elected officials, well, what are your thoughts on that? Oh, I ignore stuff like that. See, we can't ignore certain things that goes on before us. We have to learn how to analyze things. The best way to do it is having honest discussions, not making jokes, but having discussion so that we can determine our own future, political, social, economic, and spiritual. Brother Coleman?
Well, like you said, analyzing again. When you are analytical, you're a thinker. We don't think anymore. You know, it's just given to us and we accept it the way it's given to us. We have to work with our children get them to think and question everything. Remember, we in school, they told us Columbus discovered America. But when we found out the truth, we lost all that time. So we have to get our children to think and question every single thing that's told to them. Then I think one thing that we also need to do, as far as coming together at the table as a group, is change the way we treat each other. You know, when we grow up as a child, you often have a superhero. You know, I want to be Spider-Man, I want to be Superman, I want this superpower, I want to be able to pick anything up. Well, my superpower is to change the way people treat each other. See, if we can do that, then that's a big step. That's a big step. We can get away from the crab in the bucket mentality. You know, we're in a bad way right now. We're in a bad way. And I just want to revert back to when you're talking about the election. I've heard this election compared to President Obama's election. His election was historic. Many people came out. Someone described this election as picking a seat on the Titanic.
It's historic. It is historic.
But
It's
a big difference.
But we know the ship was sinking.
There
Right.
we go.
Mm-hmm.
Right, there we go. We know it was not going to stay afloat. Not going to stay afloat. Now, I think about Trump. When he started using the phrase, "Make America Great Again," to me, that was the buzz phrase for the white supremacists. Come on out. Time to open the door, because they use that amongst themselves.
They call it the dog whistle
There you go.
effect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that's happening is that we don't read enough, or we don't look at enough things. Dr. Francis Chris Welsing for decades has been telling us that white people know they represent exactly 7% of this world's population, and they are fighting for white genetics survival. Gets back to what you were just saying about the trigger word, the buzzword, and the trigger word and the buzzword were the same word.
That's right.
We are fighting for white genetic survival. Y'all bringing all these people in this country that are people of color. They don't look like us. They're gonna be outnumbering us. They make babies better and faster than we make them. We got to do something about it. That was another reason why he won that election like he did. Because they were.
Based on what you said, have we not learned the lesson? We have all our in the election. Have we not learned the lessons from Reagan? Have we not learned the lesson when the plan was to eliminate 30% of the white population over time, 7% of the black population over time, 40% of the Hispanic, 60% of the Hispanic population, and that plan is still in effect. But one thing happened, because we began to multiply at one time, we began to rise in numbers. So the illegal aliens, they didn't just walk across the border. Many of them brought across the border and allowed to walk across the border, because by so doing that, they were going to take them and hope they would assimilate with the Euro-centric mentality. That was their purpose. So they would undermine us, because then they would come take the white perspective of life and leave us hanging. Well, do we learn the lesson? When I say our African American black family, we must learn to sit at the table, focus on solution. We know what's happened in the past, so there's no point going back there. We can't change it. But we look at today, plan for the future. And one thing I make mention, we need to sit at the table and come up with ways and means to work with our young people. It's very important. Because what I do today, don't matter kill beans to me, because I'm going to be gone. But my great-great-grandchildren might reap a benefit. And stop telling me it's a waste of time talking to young people, because they ain't going to listen. If you don't tell them, you'll never know whether they listen or not. We all started on one track. When we finished high school, we were on a different track, but we learned something in between. So life is a journey.
Now we are going to take a quick break. Now more than ever, you should contact us at that email on your screen, TuskegeeVirtual@gmail.com. Be a part of the conversation. Give your input. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. And we're back with Black Consciousness Today. And now we've got Butch Baxter, the latest intern here at Tuskegee Virtual, in the scene with us. And we're going to let you start this segment out because I know you got something really powerful to say.
Well, I don't know how powerful it might be, but I followed Dr. Frances Cress Welsing to a great extent. Every lecture that she started off with, she always would talk about Neely Fuller, someone that she had met down in Washington, D.C. that was a security guard. Don't know how educated he was, but my understanding is that he at least graduated high school. And they got to talking, and she was trying to figure out why white people were like they were. And she would say something. And he was like, no, it wasn't that. It wasn't money. They make the money. And so finally, he said this to her. If you fail to understand white genetic racism or white genetic survival, anything that you attempt to understand will only confuse you. And what I heard him say was this: you have to understand the true lay of the land. You have to understand what Frances eventually started talking about. She started talking about, when she led off and finished and moved into her lecture, she started talking about, you have to understand that white people understand that they represent 7% of the world's population. And they are fighting for white genetic survival. So what we see going on here today is just addressing that particular reality. And that's why what was important to white folks was jobs and building the wall, so to speak. They understood what that meant, what that was all about. We didn't. We unfortunately think that, like Marcus Garvey had told us, we think we are here for the first day of pleasure. We don't pay attention. That was my statement for this moment.
Back to thinking, as you say, well, you talk about white genetics and things. Yeah, a lot of people hope they understand this, that two people of non-color cannot create a person of color. Two people of color can produce a person of non-color. We call it albino. That's been going on for years. It's in the animal kingdoms everywhere. So they're concerned with themselves not being here. So they do whatever they can. Self-preservation is the first law of nature. So they're going to try to preserve themselves being here. And another thing is, I have on my mind is about, we talked about Planned Parenthood earlier, which is a government program, if I'm not mistaken. There's a lot of government programs that are out there for good, but then there's a lot of them out there designed to destroy. One that comes to mind is Section 8, where you get assistance with the rent, but the father cannot be there on residence.
Well, is that not part of the plan, which is to make sure that you divide and conquer, and when you put Planned Parenthood in the neighborhood and you don't allow the male to be in the household, and so then you put out propaganda that says if you keep having babies, you're going to lose your benefits if you keep having babies, so you're encouraged or discouraged from having babies and saying, well, you can get free service at this place called Planned Parenthood. Now, we could do an entire show about Planned Parenthood. In fact, on Channel 181, we have a recurring program called Ma'afa 21, talking about the genocide produced by Planned Parenthood. So that's a whole nother discussion. But it is part and parcel to what you all are saying about the preservation thing, to limit the number of people. And everybody has to remember that before that place was called Planned Parenthood, it was called the Birth Control League.
Right.
And it engaged in negative eugenics, in controlling the population of people of color. They didn't say black people, they said people of color.
Well, if you look at it, what are the best ways to control a population of people? Fear and religion. Okay? Is it easier to control a population of people, say 1 million people, or is it easier to kill them? It's easier to kill them. You kill them in the food, you kill them in the water, you killing with the air, killing with medicine.
To support what this brother is saying, I worked with Dr. Boyd Graves for 7 years on the AIDS question. We don't have enough time right now, but Dr. Boyd Graves was from Youngstown, Ohio. Grew up, went to East, Jerusalem Baptist Church, got accepted to Annapolis Academy, top of his class, spoke fluent Mandarin Chinese, got political, got involved, and he was injected with the AIDS virus. He had the tenacity to go into the Library of Congress and found the flow chart for AIDS describing how it was made. It was there. He had 8 of the steps for the AIDS program. When they found out what he was doing, they pulled the information from the Library of Congress. But I think it's still up. If you would look at boydgraves.org or boydgraves.com, you will see it there. All right? And there's always been a cure for AIDS because it's part of this country's germ warfare program. And here's how that works. I come to you and say, listen, we got too many people of color. Well, what can we do? Because you got a factory. So you come up with the virus. I, as the country, say, well, you know, that really works. You don't give you a contract. But where's the antidote? We don't want this to get loose and kill everybody. All countries are involved in germ warfare. That's the strategy.
Right.
So the cure for AIDS is called Tetrasil. Tetrasil has a patent number. In that patent number, you must describe what this item does. It has to do something that no other item on this planet can do in order for you to get a patent number. You don't get a patent number because you're a friend, you got money. You get a patent number because what you said this does, it does. Look up boydgraves.org and look up .com and look up Tetrasil.
Now, the question on that particular is this. How many doctors do we have in the medical field who have access to this information, that knows what it does and knows where to cure it? It has been taught for years that there has been a cure and that AIDS was actually manufactured in a laboratory in Maryland. Then it was spread through WHO, World Health Organization.
Exactly.
But my point is, when we look at certain things, we have people who have access to certain information, but they don't bring it to us and help us to understand and help us think ways and means of avoiding falling into the trap.
So we have regulatory bodies like the FDA that's going to blacklist you if you use certain sorts of treatments, even if they do work.
But not my point, not whatever they do to you. My point is, you're part of the family. I know you're making money, so you take a process and say, what's most important to you? Your African American black family members, because one might be your sister or brother getting overdosed some of this stuff. But if you allow it to happen, then you're part of the destruction of your own people. This is what I'm saying. We have people here in Tuskegee who have access to have abilities that they can share with us to do the thing that we need to do right here in Macon County, but for their own comfort. Okay? It's kind of like Franz Fanon. We talk about the yellow dogs and the yellow bellies. The book was called The Wretched of the Earth. We look at within ourselves. That's why we need to examine the situation, take and examine ourselves. Because our enemies are not all external. But we have internal power within our family. When we don't sit at the table, share information, seek solutions for overcoming some of the obstacles that they throw in our way. Huh?
Yeah, I think I get it.
This is important that we do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, as I say, life experience, knowledge we've gained in the past, can be valuable at the table. Otherwise, we're just having a conversation. This is why I ask people to, hey, come, let us sit at the table. Not out there in cyberspace where everybody's talking.
What I was going to say, see, here's the challenge. We or you or those people that have the possibility of sharing information, they have to make a decision. Is my comfort and greed more important than the truth? am I willing to die for the truth? Or do I want the bigger piece of chicken?
That's the whole point. What are we as a people willing to die for?
There you go.
Are we willing to die to live or die just to be dead?
Are we willing to die for the survival of our children?
Life is precious. As I said earlier, what I do is not for me. If there was any benefit, it would be for my great-great-grandchildren.
There you go.
Now, a few years ago, someone called my daughter, texted my daughter, asked her was there any way possible they could get me to come back up south, because they had no one in the community to speak for them. I said, I guess they didn't learn a lesson while I was there, but I'm trying to tell you, we have to do something on our own because we can't depend on one person. We have to do it together. But for another year, a couple of years ago, one young fella said, India, make sure you tell your father did for me. So when we were the children in the church, we had a lot of men in church. He was the man we respected the most. Wanted to make sure she told me that. What I did, I don't know, but my point is, when I say, don't refuse to give some advice to a young person. She don't know when it's going to carry over. It may be 10 years, maybe 20 years, but share.
Well, we need to reestablish a value-based system. We have no value system right now. We have no morals anymore. We do have social media, which is very important, and then we have media. Now, if you look at what you see on television, the rap videos, I'm picking out rap by itself. I'm picking out hip-hop. I'm singling it out. Yes, I am. That's slavery right there, if y'all don't realize it. You need to get away from the hip-hop. But music is so important, and we have so much talent out here musically. You know, today nobody even plays any instruments anymore.
Right.
Go ahead.
So we need to go ahead and start singing about love and values and families and things like that to get back together instead of disrespecting our women, our mothers,
And ourselves.
and ourselves.
There you
More
go.
important.
Thank you.
Important to this, one young fella, I don't remember the name, I was having to listen on the radio. He spoke about rewriting our African American history. Now he's a rapper. I don't remember the words, but his words were plain. He talked about his father, the life that his father had learned, the lesson that he learned. You know, his father was his father, okay. But he learned lessons from that. He didn't want to do the same thing that his father did, so he wanted to take a different path. So basically his message was, we need to look at ourselves, look at our life experiences, and make a change. And this is what I mean when I say we sit at the table, begin to renew our hearts and minds as a family.
Self-examination is a very important thing. And I
That's
think we do have to come to the table. We have to come to the real table, the literal table, and break bread together. And we do need to come to the digital table too, because that is a place where a lot of the young people do tend to congregate. And they will listen. They will. And they will contribute to the conversation. We just have to be we have to be able to engage them on all levels.
Right, putting together that little core at the table that's gonna sit, analyze, and send a message.
I had a question to this brother.
Okay.
About music. I'm understanding better as a result of rap music what went wrong. Rappers would tell me they could only get a contract to talk about tantalizing the young folks sexually and intimately. And then there was a group that I thought was outstanding. Remember Arrested Development?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course.
They had the message.
Everyday people.
Okay, and yes, from Spike Lee's movie Malcolm.
Mhm.
Okay, that was a great group. They got cut off.
Well,
They got cut off, and as it gets back to what you were saying
mhm.
about rappers delivering a good message.
Well, rap music has changed when it first was introduced.
Mhm.
I can remember Quincy Jones off that album. There were albums back then, not CDs. I guess I give him my age now. But I had the album name I was Back on the Block. He had Ice-T on there, Kumo D, Never. And he said at the end of the song, rap music is here to stay. And he was not misleading you. It was here to stay, but it has evolved into a monster right now.
Well, you know, it really originated with something that was done in ancient communities called spoken word.
Okay.
And stories were handed down from the ancestors using spoken word. And a lot of times it was set to music. So rap and hip hop was created in the spirit of spoken word, and I respect that. However, I am concerned about the repetitive message, the negative message that comes out. Now that gets kind of explained away by saying, well, I'm just talking about my life experiences. And I always say, well, it's one thing to talk about the problems and the experiences, and it's another thing to come up with solutions. If you're just talking about the problems and you're adding to the problem, if you're not talking about the problem and coming with solutions, that's when you're in conflict. So you have to come with the solutions to these problems that you're talking about. So if that's what you're gonna do, message music. Otherwise, let's talk about love, let's talk about peace, let's talk about cooperation, and let's talk about getting along. We have come to the end of another segment, and I hate to do this to you guys, but we're gonna put a bookmark on it, and we're gonna continue this conversation off camera. But next week, let's talk about this and continue. All right, Black Consciousness Today. Send us some input at the email on the bottom of your screen. Thank you, guys.
Free your mind and the rest will follow.
There you go.